patiently around the world. Our friend is back here, Nick
There he is.
in the house. This guy brings it in every possible way. His podcast, his radio, with his personal brand, speaking around the world about probably one of the most pertinent subjects, especially for young people today. Welcome and thank you for your patience, Nick Brax.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me, David, and great to meet you, Blaine. I'm actually in New York right now, so I live. I'm from Australia, but I've come back to New York a week ago, so I'm here for Thanksgiving.
Oh, well,
good.
Thank you for joining us on this blessed day. We're all blessed to have you here as well. Well, the move your mind concept and understanding that we give meaning to everything that we see. Most people in some degree have some sort of attention deficit disorder. Everybody has a story of struggle. That's part of the journey. Life is about lessons ever since read Sanskrit. And the lessons will keep on coming until you learn them. I always say I get kicked in the face 8 times a day. The only difference in my life today is I don't spend very much time after I get kicked in pain or punishment, only in promotion and protection. For you, with all the different conversations that you're having in this area, what are some of the key things that people can do today to start the process of healing?
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing it up. And it's such a big area. And I love what you're saying there about when you get kicked down, not spending too much time sitting in it. And I heard Novak Djokovic talking about this quite recently. And he was saying, that's probably his biggest superpower, that it's not that he doesn't have doubt and have down times, but he spends, small amounts of time in that space. So really, for me, the most powerful thing has been storytelling. I've been in this space for 13 years now. I'm not from a psychology background. I grew up in a well-known family. I wound up in the media, had my own story, and started sharing my story, not knowing what I was doing. And, 13 years later, I've sort of used so many different formats to get this message out there, but just sharing stories, opening up to people, talking about our own struggles and how we can get through it, and allowing other people to feel that it's okay, especially men. A lot of the time as men, we feel like it's not okay to admit struggling. And the only way to cope with the struggle is to admit it and find a way to mitigate it. So I think just being open, honest, vulnerable goes such a long way.
The idea of vulnerability has always been an intriguing one to me from a leadership development perspective. And the focus that you have on tell the story, there's something about being able to tell the story that touches not only who I am, that makes it possible for me to touch somebody else. And this for me, at least, it's an interesting notion here. I've been working, in this domain, in this field for about 40 plus years. So I've got a lot of stories, but a lot of stories I've told over and over and over and over again. Now the audience hears them fresh, but they aren't necessarily fresh to me. The idea of staying connected to the story in a healthy way comes into play, with this. Because I can tell my story, and David, you've had this experience as well. I mean, lost $100 million. You tell that story all the time. That reclamation, that reinvention. How do you work with people to get them to the point of realization where the story doesn't define who they are? It enables them to be better than what they used to be.
Yeah.
If you can make that distinction.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. And on a personal note, when I got into this space, there was a point where in Australia I was doing 200 plus talks a year, and I had to pull back because I was sharing my story. And as you guys know, you're wanting to give it everything, and you're being so raw and honest, and it takes a lot out. And it affected my mental health, and I was like, wow, I got to find a way to balance this out. So I think it's educating that yes, it's important to share our story in the process of recovery. And if we can find that happy medium where when we are in a better space to be able to educate others, to use it to empower other people, but not at the expense of your own mental well-being and your own growth. You don't want to be sharing your story and having that hold you back in the past and not allow you to move forward. So I think it really is a fine line, and assessing how can I adapt this and, use this story to empower myself to get the message out there, but also, share messages of growth that as I go down my path. And I've had to do that in, my public speaking career, and still always finding that happy medium. But I think it's such an important question, because we need to share those stories, but also you don't want to let it put you in a victim mentality or hold you in the past. But I think it's really important.
It's kind of the distinction between I have a story and I am a story.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
I think you bring up a really good point, Nick. I worked with a guy who was a famous New York Yankee, had his moments of glory, got into a drunk driving accident that killed someone. And from that moment, his entire life was blame, shame, and justification. Yeah, never once took any accountability, still hasn't in every facet of his life. I look, and Blaine, is my mentor, has taught me there's certain people that are toxic and that bleed you, and you can't change people. You can understand and pray for their happiness, but it's okay to let people fall away from your life. But the lesson that I learned when I look at very similar journeys between you and this famous baseball player, now he's older than I am, but he's still living below the line, and he had an opportunity to utilize, as I have and Blaine have, the challenging times of our lives to catapult us to a higher place, a life, better situation by learning from it. So many people see these struggles as punishment and then go blame, shame, and justification, which continue to fuel the fire in their lives to not be where they want to be and continue to find what they don't want. Can you help people understand how you were able to take your challenging from your drunk driving incident and elevate yourself instead of devalue and continue to spiral?
Yeah, I love that point, David. And I think it's a lot of people, it's an excuse really. If we want to stay in that victim mindset, life's too hard, it's not fair, why are other people so lucky? And you're only harming yourself. And let's be honest, the world's not fair. It's going to be, amazing things happen, terrible things happen. It's about what we can take out of them. And again, as I'm sure you guys are sharing all the time, when you fall flat on your face, when you make a mistake, when something happens, that's a huge opportunity to learn and grow. And when I look back on my life, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't go and crash that car and drink drive again. But I definitely wouldn't do that. Don't even drink anymore. But it really taught me a lesson I needed to learn at that time, and I took accountability for it, and that empowered me to go on the path I'm on. So I think it's about just really taking ownership of your situation. And I feel like we live in a world more than ever now where, through social media, everyone wants instant gratification. Everyone wants to have the reward without really putting in the work for it. And that's not how it should be. The actual journey is what matters. It's not about the end result. It's about the growth you get and the lessons you learn. And I think we really need to understand that. And if we could understand that, a lot more people would not be sitting in that victim sort of mindset, and they'd be learning from it and taking accountability, and not waiting for someone else to pull us out of it, because if we wait, it won't happen. We've got to step up and make that choice.
Yeah, the whole idea of basically what you're talking about is, how do I sustain success in life, given that life is going to throw me all kinds of shit. It really will. And it's really, honest to God, I believe that success ultimately comes down to my ability to develop the capacity to continuously start over. And part of that capacity is, moving away from victim into, okay, what do I do now? Develop the capacity to continuously start over, get knocked down, get back up. Now, that's easy to say, but if you start to codify it as, this is a capacity issue, it's not a failure of ability. You just have got to develop the capacity, beginning with your mindset, how you think, and that sort of thing, and how you take on what it is that's just happened.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I love the story that you bring to the table, Nick, because I think it's something that really needs to be heard. And I particularly like that you've got the platforms that you've got to be able to illustrate and illuminate this, because it's huge.
Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it.
And Nick, I love the fact that coming off of a speaking tour myself of 23 speeches in 30 days in the world, as you know, from Mexico City all the way to Tahiti to, I don't remember, Malta, Madrid, Portugal, and London. It was interesting because I had my wife with me for most of it. And it was a baseline that I was able to go back and forth from the emotional out, outgoing emotional aspect of speaking back down to center to receive back, the purpose of telling this story and sharing these lessons that reached me as we went along. And I know you're doing that. Well, Nick, we have so many things going on now that you're back in America here. We'd love to see you fly out west. We got a TV show going on in December in Vegas. Maybe you can make that swing. Or
Yeah,
I know
David, I'll be in Vegas.
Blaine has a show he wants you on, and you we'll do some swapping of shows. And the world needs more of your storytelling and inspiration, especially with the necessity of attention and personal growth, as there's so many different distractions today away from the trajectory of where we want to be. Nick Brax, thank you for your patience. We appreciate you being on in Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Find the light, the love, and the lesson in everything you do by moving your mind with Nick Brax, nickbrax.com. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Man, two for two on the guests, and we have Rohan waiting in the wings.
Oh, all right.